Hi, Steve Clifford, and today I'm going to do a review of the Bangsteel Shooting School. Bangsteel, I believe, is the best value in long-range shooting training. Um, the 2024 season, they charged $400 for a two-day class. And they're talking about having to raise their rates up to $440. But even at $440, I think this is just an incredible value for what you get. This is not like a lot of other shooting schools, though. It's much less formal. The range facilities that I'm going to show you in just a second are not quite what you would expect. And everything about it is really, honestly, what I would describe as blue collar. Bordering on redneck, it's probably redneck. So let me show you the shooting facilities first, and then I'll tell you about what goes on in the class and how it works. I'm standing here in a cow pasture up on top of a hill. Behind us here, isn't it, is an interstate. Up on top of this hill, you'll notice you've got an electric fence. That's to keep the cows away from the shooting area. This is the shooting area. So a little on the primitive side. That's a clear cut. And that clear cut has targets scattered about. I think the closest one is 475 yards. I think that one back there is the longest one at 900. Then if you go over here, you've got more targets going up the hill. You've got a 1040 and a 1200 yard target. And if I understand correctly, somewhere over that direction, they've got a 1 mile target. So it's not laid out like your typical, square range that you might be used to at other shooting places. There's a certain charm to that. The instructors, Dan Newberry and Forrest Newberry, father and son. Dan's been doing this for a while, and Dan's pretty well known in the reloading community for developing the OCW load method. And his son is really the workhorse of this whole thing. So the two of them are the instructors. And you'll notice that neither one of them are Marine Corps snipers or Special Forces guys. They're just good shooters, and they've trained a lot of people. They've had a lot of people that they get going through this class. So here's how the class works. When you show up, you meet at a Subway down the road, and they drive you up through the cow pasture up to the top of this hill and start out with some classroom time. The classroom time is very basic. It is not really regimented. There's no PowerPoint presentation or anything like that. Dan just goes through and explains the fundamentals, and Forrest demonstrates a lot of things. And then we get to the shooting. First thing that's going to happen is that Forrest is going to take your rifle, verify zero, and set your turrets, and then take some shots at 600 to figure out what kind of drop there is with your rifle and your ammunition. He's going to give that information over to Dan. Dan's going to plug it into his ballistic calculator, and he's going to send you a drop chart to start with. Then you're going to start shooting. The first target you're going to shoot at is going to be 600 yards. And I can almost guarantee you'll make a hit, maybe even the first round, because you're coming fresh off of an explanation of fundamentals and how to do this. Once you get there, you're going to start going out longer and longer and longer ranges. By the end of the first day, if all goes right, you'll probably shoot at the 1040, although that might end up going into day two. But you're going to get a lot of trigger time experience. You're going to learn about wind, and you're going to learn a lot of things, not so much from a scientific point of view, but more from an instinct point of view. Dan's going to be guiding you through and walking you into targets so that you can understand what these different environmental factors are doing to your gun without using a Kestrel. By the way, they're not big fans of the Kestrel, so keep that in mind when you come out. Anyway, if your gun breaks down, or if you're seeing that things just aren't working right, Forrest is going to take your gun and he's going to go over it. He's going to see what is going on with it. Is there anything that can be corrected? And he might even tear it down for you. It depends on the situation, but he can usually fix problems. So that's a really invaluable thing to have. And Forrest does a great job at it. So day 2, you just kind of follow on with what you learned in day 1. And by the end of the second day, you're going to feel pretty confident at hitting targets at much longer ranges than you came in originally. It's a cool setup, and you're going to be part of a fraternity of guys that have gone through this. And like I said, it's much more blue collar, it's much less regimented than any of the other schools that are out there. But it's cool. Now, the other thing, Dan and Forrest have a podcast, the Bangsteel podcast. I highly recommend listening to that. Although, make sure you leave your hurt feelings at the door. If you have any type of sensitivity to anything that is not politically correct, it's not the podcast for you. But to anybody else, it is really funny. And they do cover some long-range shooting stuff every time they're talking about long-range shooting, but they go into politics. They go into some gun industry things. They go into even some pop culture stuff. They do it very irreverently, and listen, you'll get it. Anyway, I'm going to finish up by talking to Dan and Forrest, and I'm going to have some video of the class that goes on today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let's get on with it.
Trigger squeeze. Everything else I cover with you is important. Do try to remember it and put it into practice. But the two biggest things I see people struggle with is properly using a rear bag and properly squeezing the trigger. Once you can master those two things, you're going to have really good accuracy, really good results, especially from a setup like this. All right, we're ready, Cliffy. 600 yards.
Okay, I think we figured out 600.
Yeah, you smoked him.
All right. So this is Dan Newberry. He is the father in this father and son team, and I'm going to ask him the same question I asked Forrest. Dan, what would you say to somebody who is considering taking up long-range shooting, or at least wants to find out what is involved in it, and is this a place that they could come and do it without being intimidated?
They don't need to be intimidated. We get a lot of new shooters. Last weekend, we had a fellow, he said, I'll just be happy if I can get to 600 yards. And I said, well, you better, because that's the first target you're going to shoot in this class. And, of course, they hit. We try to help people, as I say on the website, the 19 out of 20 who are left behind by the equipment race and some of the other techniques that are commonly used. We get you what you need, and if you've got a Ruger American, a Savage Axis, bring it. We'll get the right scope on it. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and you'll be shooting quite well. You'll be pleased, we promise you. We haven't had any dissatisfied customers.
Well, that's awesome, Dan. Well, listen, thank you so much for having me out here today, and look forward to coming out again probably in the springtime.
Whatever you want.
Good to see you, Dan.
Good to see you.
Okay, so to finish this off, I first of all have to apologize. I lost the video of the interview that I did with Forrest Newberry, and I also lost the video of my recap up on the hill. So, quick recap, bottom line is Bangsteel is a fantastic way to get yourself introduced to long-range shooting. If you do that and then you decide you want to go on and take other classes elsewhere, you're probably going to pick up some more things that that'll be of value to you. And that's what I did by taking a class from Frank Galley with sniper's hide, and both classes were fantastic. Both classes I learned a huge amount. But again, if you're looking for, just to get your feet wet and get in and see what this is all about, there's no better way, dollar for dollar, than the guys at Bangsteel. Very, very happy with their training, and you will learn a ton. So give it a try. I'm Steve Clifford. Thank you for watching.